this is marzipan, and marzipan is basically like an almond candy dough. So you can, pass that around. You can find this at the grocery store. It is different than almond paste. This has a higher content of sugar, and it is a little bit finer. So I'm gonna open this up, and you wanna look for it to be really soft when you buy it. It should not feel hard, because you want it to be pliable. So this would be like using fondant or something like that, okay? So we want to open this up, and we want to remove the dough so that we're going to be making some carrots. So I'm going to take some of it, a very small amount, and use for green, and the rest of it is going to be for orange, okay? The only reason I need a small amount is because it's for the tops, for like the leaves. So the majority of it should be orange. We're going to use these gel paste colors, and I'm going to put an indentation. So the reason why I'm wearing gloves is because I don't want the food coloring all over my hands. So I'm going to put an indentation and put 1 drop, that was a big drop, but 1 drop of the food coloring, and I want to kind of hide it inside so I don't have it all over my fingers. And then I want to kind of fold this together, and as we're folding it together, you can kind of like pull it apart, and that will incorporate the color really nicely, okay?
Is it oil-based?
These are water-based ones. You can buy oil-based, like for chocolate, but these are the water-based colors. So you can see how nicely that distributes within soft marzipan. If this marzipan was hard, it's going to be very crumbly, and trying to get in is very difficult. So you just need to choose what color. This looks like a great carrot color, right? So I just want to make sure that it is distributed evenly, and I don't have any streaks, but you can make those fancy, heirloom carrots if you wanted to. Make a whole variety of them would be really fun. But so there's our carrot, and if you want to mute it a little bit, you can always put a little touch of brown. You have to be, kind of decent with your color thing. So I always do that one first and then the green, because it's okay if a little orange gets in this, but I don't want green in that one. So now I'm going to put just a touch, a much smaller amount of the green. Comes out kind of fast. There we go. Very small amount, and do the same thing with this one. And then we'll have our leaf for our carrot. So I prefer to do this versus coloring the icing and piping the icing. I think this is a little bit more elegant. And these last quite a while. You can make a bunch of these and store them in an airtight container and last for a long time. Okay? So now we have our green dough and our orange dough. If it was really dry in here, I would cover it with some saran wrap, but I don't have that many to work with, so I think we're okay to go ahead and do this. So I'm going to remove these now. And what I want to do, I want to start by making a rope. And this will give me the opportunity to make multiple carrots kind of in a much faster way. I'm going to use the back of my paring knife because I don't ever want to cut on the silicone mat. So I'm just going to kind of measure them out so they're about the same size. Okay. And then I'm going to take this, roll it into a ball, and then with one finger elongate this edge, and so it goes past a pear shape, and now it's in a carrot shape. Keep in mind also the size of the surface area, because you don't want a carrot this big going onto a tiny cupcake, and you don't want a little tiny one going onto a big cupcake. So this will be a perfect size that we can use to garnish on top. So the bulbous area on top, we do want to create an indentation. So I'm taking the flat side of the skewer, and I'm putting that, kind of putting an indent on the top, okay? Elongating it a little bit more. And you want to do production style, so you really want to take each piece and then do that same technique for each one as you go. And then line it up so it's ready to then have the next step done to it, okay? So we're going to, so I can do it with the side of my hand or with my finger, whichever you're more comfortable with, but it's working in the palm of your hand. That's the most important. Place the skewer in there. So I'm just going to work on these. These can be done later. Okay, and so then I'm going to take the back side again of my paring knife, and I'm going to kind of roll it back and forth and make little grooves. If you don't want your grooves to be that wide, then you can take the top part but I think it looks a little more natural when they're not so deeply indented in there. And so I'm really just doing the one side. Again, carrots are all sorts of shapes, so I'm sure if you've ever grown carrots, you know that. You get some really interesting ones. So I'm kind of rolling it on the top part back and forth. Just gives it a more natural look than if I just did this. So I want that little bit more detail. And I'm going kind of back and forth this way because the lines on carrots don't just go straight across, right? Okay, so then when that part is done, I can take a little bit of cocoa powder with a paintbrush, just dry, okay? And then brush it in here. So it looks more like it just came out of the ground, right? Yeah. Not a peeled carrot, because a peeled carrot wouldn't have lines in it, right? So we want to be as authentic as possible. And it's just a super light dusting, okay? And it just gets into the grooves a little bit. Okay, and then we can take our green, and there are many ways to do this, but we can just take a small amount, make it into a ball, and then kind of roll here, and a little bit thinner in the center, and kind of push it up like this and make a V. You need the kind of delicate hands to do this. Again, the back of my knife, I'm creating a little bit of a flare to it, and this will mimic what the carrot top looks like. So sometimes it's important to study what your vegetables look like in order to accomplish this. And because I have a little bit of a nub there, I can stick it into that hole, and then this would go directly onto my cupcake. So something that does take a little effort, but you can sit down and do hundreds of these, like, you know, at one time, and then again, store them in like an airtight container. So just be careful when you are doing this with the paring knife that you're not using the cutting edge on the mat. But I do like using the mat versus like parchment paper because it's a non-stick surface. Make sure your hands are clean. I like to use my bare hands because I feel it more. The gloves get in the way. But when I'm coloring, I always use the gloves because then I'll have color on my hands for the rest of the day.